Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you at the Bimstec Startup Forum. I would like to invite on the panel our honorable guest of honor, Sri Debashish Sen, Mr. Manjit Kumar Nayak, Mr. Ravi Narasimhan, and Mr. J.B. Pani. And Mr. Rajoshi Ghosh. So I now request Mr. J.B. Pani. Sir, please take over the session. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome. Shri Debashish Sen, IAS, retired, Managing Director of WBHID CO Limited. Mr. Manjit Kumar Nayak, Director, STPI, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Mr. Ravi Narasimhan, Director, Investments, Caspian Impact Investment Advisor Private Limited, Mr. Rajoshi Ghosh, Head of Economic Affairs and Policy, Indian Chamber of Commerce. It is an honor for me to welcome all the speakers on the event of Bimstec Startup Forum, organized by the Indian Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs. I would like to welcome our guest of honor, Shri Debashish Sen, and Mr. Manjit Kumar Nayak, our special guest, Mr. Ravi Narasimhan, and of course, our other speakers and in various other forums that comes along here. Startup is a visualization of new and innovative ideas that may come across the sectors. While startup ecosystem consists of a group of people, startups, and related organizations, that is, investors, incubators, and facilitators that work as a system to create and scale up a new startup. The slogan for Bimstec Startup Forum is Connect, Co-Create, Grow. And it is an appropriate and apt since today, this forum, the Government of India, through Indian Chamber of Commerce, is trying to enhance the growth of startup ecosystem amongst the Bimstec countries in years to come. Focusing upon the Bimstec region, the countries have ample opportunity to lead growth and potential of the country's respective countries' ecosystem. Following are the few highlights regarding startups in other Bimstec countries. Last year, the startup ecosystem in Bangladesh experienced its fair share of high and lows. Of course, we have representatives from all of the countries, so I'm sure they will shed more light in the due course. It deals, Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission, BSE, is trying to build a triangle relationship with two vital regulatory bodies, which are Bangladesh Bank and National Board of Revenue, to promote foreign investments, venture capital, and private equity firms in Bangladesh. The startup system in Myanmar is attracting attention, but it needs to be, the startup scene has to be supported by international donors, development programs, and venture capital. If you look at Nepal, Kathmandu's startup system is pretty sort of active, and Kathmandu offers a number of funding opportunities for entrepreneurs and startups, making the system more promising for the country. In view of the strategic session, Sri Lanka startups are provided with startup SL by the Ministry of Digital Infrastructure and Information Technology, currently being operated by information communication technology agencies, and with a goal to create 1,000 new startups in the country by 2025. Sri Lanka's startup deployment strategy boasts of startup-friendly policies, non-collateral-based debts, finance, and the development of state-of-the-art technology parks. Thailand's startup ecosystem has developed rapidly since the early 2010 and catalyzed by many stakeholders, including the government, representing a new engine of growth that can evolve and influence the economy into a sustainable growth path. I must highlight the ecosystem provided in our country, India. India has been showing a very steady growth in its startup ecosystem since long, with proper government and private support. The Indian startup ecosystem is committed, is already counted as one of the best in the world. For the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, are organizing a Prarambh Startup India International Summit and aim to bring about aim together various policy makers, industry, academia, investors, startups, and stakeholders from across the globe. NASSCOM is one of the recent reports has indicated that 1,200 Indian startups are engaged in innovative solutions, designing with applications of deep technology such as AI, ML, IoT, blockchain, AR and VR, etc. Our digital transformation will take you one step closer to being that one unicorn startup. According to reports, cloud is the way forward, with predictions of over 90% of the new digital workloads to be in cloud. India's JAM, the concept of JAM, that means basically the UPI, the Aadhaar card, and the Jan Dhan program, has completely started a new range of startups in the fintech world, and that is why today India is one of the leading fintech countries in the world, which has adopted fintech, and it is absolutely all pervasive, and that is one very, very important aspect why India's startup system is really being viewed very, very highly all over the world. The subcontinent is now an epicenter of tech innovation powered by flourishing startup ecosystem. The expansion of internet access has enabled the customers to shift their loyalty to digital medium. To be practical, it is wise for startups to embrace these opportunities rather than show resistance to the process. India is on the precipice of institutional change enabled by the Digital India movement, having 81% of its youth with the skill set and knowledge of becoming a part of the startup ecosystem. At the end, I must mention that India is one of the largest and fastest growing public cloud markets in the Asia-Pacific region, projected to record trifold growth from 2.6 billion to 8 billion by 2023. Since startup has the potential to contribute in the economy as well as employment, and the concept of agripreneurs and similar other sector-specific startup is a very, very important development which is helping the entire ecosystem. So startup is not necessarily only in the tech space in the IT space. It is all over, just all over. And I would like to request all the governments of Bimstec region to provide adequate support and create a common forum for the development of startup ecosystem across the region. I think this should be one takeaway that we should all the countries should focus on, that we should have a common goal for Bimstec region to sort of support startups and create that ecosystem internationally, with a cross-border, so that everyone benefits from the development of various technologies across borders. And with that, I would like to end here and invite our next speaker to the dais. Thank you.
May I invite Shri Debashish sir, please?
A very good morning, everybody, and thank you to the previous speaker for introducing the topic so beautifully. In April this year, we had this G20 meeting. You know, G20 India is now the president, doing the presidency, and it is happening all over the country. And in April this year, it happened in Kolkata, where we are now today. And there was this financial inclusion wing that was having its meetings. And in the Bishwa Bangla Convention Center in Newtown, the smart city which I am responsible for, there was this huge meeting. And one of the great things that all the countries expressed interest in was about the UPI system. Of course, you know, digital money, people these days are not using cash at all, and India is absolutely leading, and there was a great deal of interest from G20 countries. As we all know, these are all the developed countries. And what India had to offer in that seminar was that the India stack, that the Aadhaar, UPI, and a DSC, that is a digital certificate, and digital locker put together, managed by different companies, put on the same site. And this is a huge platform for helping everybody around the globe to go towards a digital monetary framework. Perhaps this is dependent on the early initiatives that the country took. As you know, India is now the most populous country in the world, beating China, 143 crores. China is just before. This happened in the last week of April. We are in July. Just 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we became the most populous country in the world. And of that percentage, 99% of the population, adult population, I must correct myself, have an Aadhaar card. Aadhaar card, as we know, is a digital identification for all residents who are resident, irrespective of citizenship, for more than 12 months in the country. And it is such a beautiful identifier for everybody, rich and poor, that it's now all pervasive. And this is leading to a lot of startups in the country. We have now 43 unicorns, that is 1 billion or more takeovers. And on this matter, Paytm, of course, is the highest. And you will observe one very interesting thing. Bankers, since the days of the Imperial Bank, that is the State Bank of India, which was founded in Kolkata itself in 1935 or so, the bankers have not progressed very well in capturing this new opportunity coming out of Aadhaar and UPI. It is the Paytms, it is the Google Pays, it is the GPays and whatever, Amazon Pay, that is all doing the support. It's a very interesting thing. Huge banks, think of State Bank of India, think of HDFC after the merger. It's going to be one of the largest bank in the whole world, one of them. So these have not been very proactive. We do have this YONO or something for the SBI, but everybody uses Paytm or Google Pay or something like that. The point I'm making is, we need to inculcate these startups in conventional industries, in other industries in a huge way, because big institutions are not able to transform themselves. A case in point, in Kolkata, we are talking of West Bengal, I know of an incubation center that is formed by a hospitality, that is a hotel company. They have set up an entire startup ecosystem for seeing that their hospitality or hotel industry performs better, in tune with the times. Just last week, 2 startups came to me, both residing, one in US, one in UK. They came to me, I don't know why they came to me, perhaps because I'm leading the only smart city in Bengal, one of the 100 smart cities of India. again, a very, very interesting initiative, and I'll come to it in a while, of the Government of India and the state governments that encourages technology to be used in day-to-day city governance. Very important point I'll come to and make a brief point presently. So they came to me, I said, why are you here? Health department. So they are doing radiology AI and they can detect very easily, even remotely, breast cancer. Another, without even radiology, by mapping the heat sensors. There are n number of health tech applications. But what is happening is that in Newton, we have 3 very eminent cancer institutions. Perhaps that drew them there. And they are saying that we can do the similar job sitting remotely in a very, very good manner. So in all spheres, whether it is hotel, whether it is fintech, whether it is hospital, the startups are supporting a main ecosystem. I think this is the point I'm trying to drive home. A stand-up startup, I was in the IT department, Mr. Manjit Naik was with me, Mr. Pradeep Majumdar was with me, and what we had was that a lot of startups came to me and said, let me have there was a hackathon, there were some winners, and I thought I'll have an interaction with them. I don't want to disappoint people, but most of them were pretty run-of-the-mill who got prizes, mind you. They were selected by a jury. But I could not discover much that I did not know already or which I thought would make a difference. And there I spotted, incubated by the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a wonderful young guy who talked of honeybees. I said, what does have that to do with startups? And he explained that the food chain, even in cities, I deal with cities, even in cities are very important so that we nurture bees, and we need to have IoTs and AI to see that they are surviving, and also local, rural self-help groups can make apiaries in the balcony of your house. This is radical thinking. Sundarbans is the place in south of Bengal where we traditionally associate beekeeping with. And now you come to Eco Park in Smart City, Newtown, and you can have very fine garden-grown organic honey made out of this startup, and this is where I think synergy is built. That brings me to my point, I will not elongate my talk, is that in the sphere of public services, in the sphere of city governance, in the sphere of public utilities, there is a huge scope for startups to come, aid and flourish and help the system. Just as Paytms are helping State Bank and other banks, just as radiological ML AI is helping cancer institutes, just like startups are helping big 5-star hotels in finding good clients, like that, city governance, public services, and mind you, an average state, my friend comes from, my previous speaker comes from Orissa, I come from West Bengal, there is all the countries, think of your public budget. It is 3 lakh crores every year, divided by 12, and you know how much development work is happening all over the state, a relatively tiny area-wise state of West Bengal. And even if a small portion of it is kind of synergized with startups, we have a huge, huge possibility. I will end by a last practical, actual example that has been happening and we are doing. Yesterday's Telegraph also captured it. If you can see online, you can see. These drains of a city, the sewers, which we don't think of, we pull the flush and forget all about it. We look at the rains coming down and forget all about it. How is it going under the ground and going all the way for the sewage treatment plants or to the drainage outlets? What happens is that all the plastic that you discard, all the dirt that is gathered clogs these drains and manholes. So what municipalities do? they put in, even today, 99% of the cases, people have to physically go down in the muck, take the bucket and put it up so that somebody is taking out. Yes, we do have jet suction machines and all, but it doesn't clear well because a manhole, by definition, you have to know the engineering, it is deeper than the length of the pipe. It is meant to trap things so that the pipe is not clogging. So how do you clean the manholes other than by going down? And people have lost their lives because of the poisonous gases over there. And here we have installed in Newtown, Kolkata, Smart City Newtown, Kolkata, last week, see yesterday's Telegraph, a robotic arm in cleaning these manholes. So a smart startup has done a robotic arm which cameras with all kinds of arms and all kinds of six-way movements that goes down, sees, and there's an operator on the road surface who, by a touch screen, controls the movements, and it is pulling out the muck. Each one costs about 43 lakhs. We have got 3 of them, close to 1 crore of rupees. Where do you get electricity in all the manholes? They are carrying a portable generator, all included, and a wonderful startup example where all cities of the world would need it because there has to be manholes and you have to clean it, otherwise your system is clogged. And what is the way we do? You still use the primitive way of putting a man down and endangering his life. At least I have seen, even in my city, that in Newtown, one person had lost his life, and there was a police case started for negligence, but who would know what is happening? But I'm not going into that. So these are the opportunities that are awaiting in the startup world, in the field of public utility, in the field of public service. All governments of the world are has to spend a huge amount of money to keep the cities running, to keep the system running. And can startups help, like Paytm does, the State Bank of India? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It is always a real pleasure to hear you. Now I would request Shri Manjit Kumar Nayak, Director STPI, to share his thoughts with us.
Good morning. In the dais, Devasi Sen, sir, the MD of HIDCO, then Mr. J.B. Pani, then Mr. Ravi Narsimha, then Mr. Rajasri Ghosh, and ladies and gentlemen, and dignitaries from the several countries, those who participate over here. It's a pleasure over here to be part of the Bimstec program. Sarah has already told about the inside of the startup, how it flourishes across the countries, and the startup is getting opportunities, and the different issues is also he has already expressed. So let me talk about something, how the startup journey has started in India, right? Because other countries also here participated. So let me think to develop in August 2015, Honorable Prime Minister has announced about the startup journey. Since then, this journey has started and it's crossed 7 years. And now, if you see, there is more than 90,000 startup has been registered under DPIIT. And India is now in the positioning of third position across the globe after USA and UK in the startup journey. Apart from that, every state having the startup policies and every district having the startup creations. If you talk about the startup movement, then more than 20% startup is coming from the smaller town of India. It has been seen that even 47% of the startup having the women director. Why I am telling all these things? Because the objectives behind it of the creation of the startup Germany is the promotion of to support the young entrepreneurs and also to support the women entrepreneurs. Again, to focus on the minority communities and of course the job creation of the job. That was the main objectives behind the startup journey. And today it has been witnessed that it is the manifold it has been grown, and the entire country has witnessing the success of the startup, and more than 100 unicorns so far already created, and 90,000 plus DPIIT registered startup. And apart from that, many startups is day by day is coming off, and they're trying to grab these government opportunities and the different stakeholders, whatever the benefits are available, they're trying to grab this opportunity and they're trying to scale up their business. The figure says almost in India 665 district, at least one registered startup. So it's geographically spread out across the country. Then 9.2 lakhs job creation is so far happened across through the startup community. And of course, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Delhi, these are the top states those who are leading in the startup growth. And the startup is also working in various sectors. The leading sectors are in the IT and then healthcare, of course, education. All these segments, if you think, then the startup is growing. So, startup journey basically it's starting from the village to tier 2 to tier 3 cities to tier 1. It's happening everywhere. And it has seen that the lot of innovative ideas coming in the young minds, and it has been promoted by various government and the different stakeholders, those who are involved in the startup journeys. And government, different ministries also taking lot of initiative. Several policy has been framed, and different incentive also providing by the different policies. Even in the startup policies, there is a lot of benefits, 3-year tax holidays, then the 3 years of, particularly hassle-free movement, there is no compliance report has to be submitted for 3 years. So there is a lot of 80% in the patent filing, and there is a 10,000 crores of funds have been reserved for the startup developing of the startup communities. So there is a lot of incentive, and the facilities are also available in the startup activities. Apart from that, the state governments having a lot of facilities as per their startup policy across the countries. There is a startup policies, and startup companies are taking the benefit. If you talk about the startup journey, then we have witnessed startups are coming from the very, very small towns. So if you talk about, and with the very niche area, they're working, and with a very innovative thought. If I talk about the one Bengal example, sitting at North Bengal in nearby Siliguri, one techie guy had developed one product. He imagined that there is a shark attacks happen in the abroad, that the Western countries every year, when the swimmers are swimming across the seabed, right? And it's a loss of casualties. So looking to that, sitting at this North Bengal, this tech guy has started thinking how to control that casualty happen in the Western countries. So though he has developed that product, drone-based softwares, and tried to control the shark movement in the sea. So these are the innovative ideas coming in the young masses, those who are even staying in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So looking to this, and the sir has told many examples right now. So it's happening everywhere. Young masses are coming with a new idea, new solutions, and it has giving a lot of impact in the social and the society, and in the day-to-day life. So looking to that, government is very much proactive to support in all the angle for the startup ecosystems. And talking to this startup communities, then of course as a STPI, we are also totally now involved in the startup journeys, and we have a lot of schemes which also we are supporting across the countries to the startup systems. We have 25 Center of Entrepreneurship, that is called our Center of Excellence. So we have created across the countries, which is give a tremendous support to the startup communities. And in different domains, let's say in the education or fintech or in the automation or in the healthcare or agriculture, in all the segment, we have domain-specific center of excellence across the countries. And all the startup communities and the industries are taking benefit of that, and they are already board in that COE systems, and a lot of handholding support is available. And similarly, we have a NGIS scheme, Next Generation Incubation Scheme, that is happening in the 12 Tier 2 cities, and sitting, that is, you can physically present over there, or you can also, by remotely also, you can access to that facilities. And similarly, the scheme is particularly, it's helping the startup growth and funding support up to 25 lakhs, which is required very much for initially one support required for the startup communities to sustain in the market, to scale up their business, and to think for the future. So that is the scheme actually, 25 lakhs rupees of support system we have. We are already started funding to the startup companies, and 95 crores has been allotted particularly in the schemes, and we are targeting for the 300 startup, which will be very soon, will be targeting for our goal to support the startup ecosystem. Looking to the startup community, there is also a startup portal has created by the Ministry of Electronics and IT, METI portal we called, and also DPIT are having also a startup portal. So there is a portal where you will get lot of informations, and there is lakhs and lakhs query has been reaching to that portals, and there is addressing systems are there, and online support and helping hand is there to support these startup ecosystems. And there is also mentors are connected, the angel funding is also connected, then the academia is also connected. So the entire ecosystem has been created, and the portal is there to support the startup ecosystem. Even the different ministries, as I told, the education institute like IITs, IIM, NIT, everywhere, that the research laboratories and the facilities also created for this to support the startup ecosystems. So what I want to say, this is the systems, the startup has been witnessed is very lucrative in compared to with the global growth. We are already in the positioning third. Very soon we'll targeting to reach to the next level, and the entire country is booming up with the startup ecosystem. Hopefully, the Indian startup system is I believe it is really a very strong and robust system which will give a lot of help to the startup communities, and it will give a lot of support to the startup communities, so that we want to see the startups should increase day by day, and it will fulfill the government goal and objectives to create the more and more employment generation and investments, and the development and the communities, and the total impact on the society. With this, I think, I believe those who are interested in startup activities or willing to start some startup activities, they can take the help of the government portal to take their next level of initiative. With this, thank you. Thank you for the patience sharing.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request Mr. Ravi Narasimham, Director Caspian Equity, to share his thoughts with us.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and good morning, my dear delegates. Thanks to all the previous eminent speakers for their illuminatory thoughts. I think they spared me from speaking, a part of my presentation. So the topic I was given to speak is basically cross-border venture capital, and the reasons for, why do we kind of go for cross-border venture capital infusions. There are challenges for a cross-border venture capital investments, and also the how do we mitigate it, and what are the opportunities for a cross-border venture capital fund. So before that, maybe I just talk about Caspian, because Caspian being a private entity, most of you wouldn't be knowing it. Caspian is a 19-year-old impact fund manager. We have our office in Hyderabad. We basically work with mostly early stage and startups. Our scope previously has been financial inclusion place. We have invested in companies like Equitas, Janalakshmi, Ujjivan. Our Indian friends would be knowing. Some of them basically have also kind of raised money from public markets. These are basically microfinance companies, and they're operating in financial inclusion space. So far, Caspian has set up around 5 to 6 startup funds in this space, and most of our funding has been through from foreign sources so far. So we basically when we talk about cross-border, venture capitalists, we basically have raised money through that mode, and I can maybe relate it to the topic closely. So why do we what's the reason for cross-border venture capital, requirement? Why don't we raise money from Indian investors itself, or for that matter, any country? Why doesn't it plan to raise money from its own set of investors? The reason being that basically, as the globalization is kind of increased and the world has become like a global country, the countries which have basically surplus of liquidity and where they don't have enough investment opportunities, they are looking at countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal, where there are many startup investment opportunities. It is also basically what we call as a geographical arbitrage. In the sense, wherever you have a lot of liquidity and where perhaps you have saturation of investment opportunities, you generally look at other markets. And typically, the Western countries so far have been looking at, these markets. And so far, the cross-border venture capital investments have been coming in the space of technology primarily, not so much in other sectors. But of late, in the last 10 to 15 years, after we can say the emergence of impact sectors, food, agriculture, health, affordable healthcare, affordable housing, affordable education, we are seeing that the cross-border venture capitalists or the foreign venture capitalists, they are looking at these particular activities more keenly. Now, the reason being that, for them, basically, they take a smaller amounts of equity investments and then with a higher kind of a stake. But then it comes with its own set of challenges. Basically they being located so far away from, the place of action. There is an element of foreignness. There is basically issues of cultural and language, differences. But then how do they address these issues? In our case, especially generally the foreign venture capitalists, what they have done is basically they kind of identified local partners. So this is the way I'm saying this is also to the LPs who are present here. If they have to look at investing in other countries, basically they should look at establishing partnerships in those countries in terms of identifying investors' networks, in terms of developing familiarity with the local regulations. Because each country, we have a various set of regulations for inviting money, for investing as well as repatriation. So the foreign venture capitalists have to basically be quite familiar with this particular set of, regulations. They need to understand basically the geographical, differences. Like in India itself, we have 5 different countries, if we can say, So the south, north, east, west, and the central. So each of these basically brings in its own set of challenges. At the same time, we will also kind of, have to be aware of the fact that there are, various, features that these different regions provide in terms of basically, as the previous speakers were speaking, some of these states have really emerged in terms of seeing more number of startups. And as I'm speaking about startups, we should be aware that the role of the government has been quite recent, maybe 2012, 2013 onwards. But prior to that, it was mostly the foreign venture capitalists. I mean, it might sound a bit parochial in nature, but we have to be aware that for a venture capital ecosystem to grow, there has to be multiple players: domestic equity investors, foreign equity investors, and of course the government. So for the foreign equity players, for them to basically develop confidence in investing in Indian startup, or for that matter any country's startup ecosystem, there has to be few things that we have to keep in mind. Simplifying the regulations, they have to be as simple as possible for them to understand. There have to be maybe few incentives, like we have a gift city in Gujarat, which basically provides various incentives for venture capital investment, tax rebates, and it is basically an investment in there, basically treated as a SEZ equivalent. So it's basically this is the foreign investments into any startups is something like given. We cannot basically say that something this we will do only internally. This we will have to. It's become basically now as a regular kind of modus operandi. And though the foreign venture capitalists look at entities which are more mature in nature, given that the startups have their own set of risks, but we also have to be so our role is basically to even the startups look very attractive. We basically, the incubators, the accelerators would play a role in terms of strengthening these startups, and in terms of giving confidence to the foreign venture capitalists to look at this as also in equal investment opportunities. The point I'm trying to say is that foreign venture capitalists won't generally enter at the startup level. They will come at maybe Series A or more mature level. But then that basically will not be really helpful for the startups, because the resources those are available for startups are very limited. A 25 lakh or a 50 lakh capital would not really help them to go really far. They need to have at least a capital plan for the next 2 to 3 years. So that basically comes when multiple players basically come into the picture. So what I'm trying to say is that the startup ecosystem would essentially develop when multiple players come into the picture, and the government of course has more role to play. My previous speakers have already spoken about the kind of support the governments have been offering in promoting the startups. Last but not least, we as basically these startup entities, if anybody are here, we also have the responsibility of basically, keep giving that kind of a confidence in terms of, having participating in various networks, getting empaneled in investors panels, and them sharing, various of our ideas with the foreign investors, in terms of, telling them that we are not just run-of-the-mill kind of, initiatives. There are new initiatives which are coming up, which are scalable, which are impactful. So, that's what basically I thought, would kind of help the sector. Last but not least, while for the foreign, venture capitalists, the foreign, the investment, the cross-border investment perhaps might not give, comparable returns because of various, uncertainties. But they also should look at as in terms of, diversification of risk. So, because countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Myanmar, these basically have low, risks which are systemic in nature. So, they are counter-cyclical risks. So, they would offer better returns in an overall basis. Also, if you include the impact angle. So, that's what I would like to say. I thank the, the panel for basically giving their thoughts, and I thank, Bimstec for organizing this conference. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, before I deliver the formal vote of thanks, I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions for our esteemed panel.
morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the insights. Specifically on the foreign investment side, what's your view on the regulatory aspects that are there? Because, for example, if a startup is trying to raise funds from a foreign investor, there are multiple regulations that apply, from income tax, from Companies Act, from FEMA perspective. Even for as simple as a valuation, right? I mean, you need typically 3 types of valuation, from a merchant banker, registered valuer. So what is your view on that? And is the government doing enough to simplify those regulations for the startups to raise funds? Yeah, yes. It's on, sir. Yeah.
So these issues have been there for the last 15 years. But as I said, if you look at the startup ecosystem, other than for the last 5-10 years, prior to that, it's mostly the foreign funding that has been coming in. So when there is a case for, good returns, which include both impact and financial returns, I think this can be basically, there can be no hurdles. But coming to your point, we'll have to play a role in terms of basically our Indian startup ecosystem has to play a role in terms of lobbying with the government. We will have to tell them, what are the pain points for, foreign investors. But this cannot be specified to one particular country. If that is the case, then it's not possible for us to talk. But if it is generally applicable to, let's say, most of the foreign investors, then I think we will have to make a case like SEBI, as you know, that it has come up with the 3 Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3.
Correct, yes.
And SEBI has been kind of, inviting suggestions from, participants as to what are the things, without kind of, hurting the investor's interest, what are the things it can take that it would, address the smooth flow of capital in and out. So, in terms of the valuation certificates and all, of course, we do that. And there are, of course, companies which provide you the valuation certificates within maybe 2 to 3 weeks time. So these issues are getting addressed, but yeah, I know where you are coming from. It's still, we have time to kind of achieve the full level of satisfaction.
Thank you so much.
Mic, please, to the lady.
Good morning to you. Coming from the education sector, because I am a professor, associate professor in economics, I am teaching in Amity University, Tashkent. I am Anita Banerjee, Dr. Anita. So I would like to know that we are talking about startups. And in this context, I want to know that how we can prepare a startup for education common to Bimstec, wherein the students, after they finish their education, they will know these are the places, these are the areas where they can get into, there they can initiate a startup, which is common to Bimstec countries. So when we are, since it's a Bimstec platform, so I would request through this platform to find out ways wherein we can have a startup which facilitates the young, because these days education is something where they want to be job ready. So in terms of when startup is really taken up, I would suggest to form a kind of platform where we encourage and we provide opportunities to the upcoming graduates, to the next generation, where they can have the opportunities, the choices where they can get into a startup, which should be common to all Bimstec countries. Thank you.
Any more?
A suggestion is that's why we're talking about cross-border cooperation. That is all. That's a good suggestion, and we'll keep it.
I can just add. So also now in various countries, not only in India, there are colleges which are coming with the entrepreneurial, cells, which basically is to make the youngsters look at entrepreneurship as a serious option. And as you see, if you really been tracking in the last 5-6 years, most of the youngsters, they are, instead of looking for a job, they're just starting something. Whether that will be successful or failure, we don't know, but that's been happening. Now, maybe the point is, instead of kind of they jumping in, then burning fingers and then joining the employment kind of a thing, perhaps it's the role of all of us to kind of guide them. I mean,
So what I'm trying to say is that where they should know not just because it's a Bimstec forum, not just in their country, when they can collaborate with cross-border, as you said, and come up with some strategy, not
Yeah.
just confined to their country.
absolutely. And for that matter, I would like to take it even beyond Bimstec also, right? Because if somebody knows that, let's say in Indonesia, one particular idea is basically, let's say, something to do with palm oil is working quite well, they should be able to go there. So it only happens through basically creating various forums and exchanging ideas. So for example, I don't know how many of here who would already be starting about doing something on their own. So it is only through sharing ideas, exchange, but in a more formative manner, it is through some academic program like, entrepreneurship.
Yes, and that should be properly advertised.
Absolutely.
In a format.
Yes.
So that students also come.
Yes.
So my question is for Mr. Ravi. Hello, sir. Sir, while we are talking about the funding for startups, are there certain forums for even funding of MSMEs, largely on the lines of private equity, or banking forums where we could look at expansion in the Bimstec countries while being from India, or other countries, startups and MSMEs wanting to come to India?
Sorry, your question is, this is MSMEs in India or MSMEs in Bimstec?
In Bimstec, I'm talking about both.
Okay, I don't have much idea about other countries, the programs for MSMEs specifically. I'm sure there are, but in India there are many programs which are meant for equity investments into the MSMEs. For example, I mean this is not yet public, but Caspian with Assam government, we are kind of setting up a fund which is supported by the World Bank, which is for the MSMEs in the agri space. So that's a 250 crore fund is what we are thinking. Similarly, many such kind of public-private partnership, and there are also incubators where private incubators, not only government, where they are saying the ticket size going up to all the way up to 1 crore, 2 crores, and then even doing a follow-ons. So there are various opportunities that started coming up, but given the number of MSMEs, which are I think close to about 3 lakh or some number, this the kind of effort basically what we have right now is not commensurate. I agree with you, but I'm kind of at least confident that good MSMEs, if they have potential, they are going to get equity sooner or later.
So the fund with Assam government, is it more like a VC or it's a private equity fund?
It's a VC.
You don't do private equity, sir?
Private equity in the sense when generally we talk about private equity when you do larger ticket sizes, like M&A type kind of deals.
Correct.
Yeah, our focus is mostly in startups, promoting startups. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, this is still morning. Good morning, everybody. Due to lack of space, I'm not being able to stand up. So, my question is a very basic question. I've come here to address to the platform, to understand from the platform that so long I have been running an organization, being the chairperson of an organization which was partnering with West Bengal government for many projects. But right now, I think I have two innovative ideas which I have placed before NABARD and many others, and they have shown a lot of interest. But coming here, I really feel like addressing to the Bimstec investors and how to just go about it. Suppose you're right now a candidate you're seeing who is ready with her ideas, with her project report and everything, and she's ready to and take off. So how to go about it? Anybody? And STPI also I would like to connect with you, and also
I have got an idea how to do a startup.
Hello. Yeah, that's a good thing. You have, that is the reason actually we called as an ideation stage. That in our NGIA scheme, what I described earlier, we called as an ideation stage. So funding is available and mentorship is available. Then the, you can say the entire system is there to support in the various stage. One person is coming with the ideation. He has the idea. Even though he don't have laptop, computers, no money. So, but he has the idea, so he wants to start a startup. So that is we segregated as a various stage actually. One is ideation stage, one is prototype stage. One is having the idea and they have already developed a prototype, certain product or certain app or certain services, whatever. That is called prototype. Then we come to the commercial stage. So that prototype can convert it to again the commercial stage. So that is already floated in the market and earning some revenue also. So startup has divided into 3 categories. One is ideation stage, one is prototype stage, one is commercial stage. So in that basis on that, actually our scheme also trying to support, and various other private angels and investors all are looking in that angle only. So, and the different schemes and particularly as I told the chamber houses and the education institution, they have all the ecosystem for helping to the startup with mentoring support, infrastructure support, funding support. So once the startup is linked to that type of a platform, so they will get the benefit or the support as per their requirement, right? So, but the thing is, the startup sitting at their home or in the village or in the town, they have to connect to this type of forum. They have to connect to this type of opportunity where it's available. Otherwise, sitting at ideally and thinking in their mind, coming with the ideation stage, if you're not able to connect to the right people at the right time, probably that startup will going to be fail one day, right?
Hello.
Can you please repeat your question?
Looking there, but
What I'm asking for is that, you know, there are many roundabout ways to go. People keep on talking about it, this can be done, this. I'm ready to do it now. So has been ready to give me the platform that I can do.
Sure. So, generally, either funds or incubation centers, these are set up on the basis of certain sectoral focus. Okay, so your idea, let's say if it is in the education sector, there are certain forums, networks which deal with education, because each sector has its nuances when we make investment. I am more comfortable in doing in agri, clean tech, but I might not be knowing agri sector, education sector. So if you come to me, I can only maybe give you some guidance as to how you have to pitch and all that. But I won't be able to, as I said, you know, my domain is different. So it is important for you to know where you have to basically go and sound your idea. If you go to NABARD with an education idea, obviously, you know, it's not going to work, right? Okay. If it is agri sector, there are many, you know, like you have, maybe I can share with you, you know, there are many incubation cells which are going. So first thing, as you know, he had mentioned, it's very important from idea to, you know, kind of the concept, you know, kind of the practical product level, or, you know, at least you need to do pilot test, right? Prototype has to be there. So for that, there are various platforms which are available. They are going to help you with that, okay? But like he's very rightly said, this is something you will have to go on constantly sounding it to various forums. It's not very easy that immediately you say something, then we'll latch on to that. Unfortunately, that kind of system hasn't come up. But I'm guaranteeing you there are many startup incubators, accelerators, they are looking for bright ideas. We are at least, you know, we are in a network of 4 or 5 such kind of thing. I can share my card with you, you know, if you think that would be helpful.
Hello. So what he has told, I can add on what, actually I am presently working as an agriculture specialist for the World Bank in Tripura. So actually we'll be working with nearly 1 lakh women farmers there. So for the input sector, for the, you know, post-harvest sector, we'll be needing startups actually who can work with us, who can supply, you know, seedlings and do the processing and everything, take the logistics, take the, you know, out produce from the farmers' PGs, and, you know, they can help in selling us our produce. So if there is some good startups who can invest, who want to invest in Tripura, they are welcome, they can join. We can help them, can train them, and we can help them getting funds from the banks as well. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to deliver the formal vote of thanks. It's really an honor for me to deliver the formal vote of thanks to all the speakers on the event of Bimstec Startup Forum organized by the Indian Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs. I'd like to thank our guest of honor, Shri Debashish Sen, IAS, Managing Director, WBA HIDCO, for his presence in the forum. I would like to thank our special guest, Mr. Manjit Kumar Nayak, Director STPI, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, for his presence today. Also, I would like to thank our special guest, Mr. Ravi Narasimham, Director Investments, Caspian Impact Investment Advisor Private Limited, India, for making time out for today's program. And also, I would like to thank Mr. J.B. Pani, our Chairman, ICC Odisha State Council. India is monumental in its entrepreneurial growth story. With unprecedented collaborations and collective efforts of ecosystem at large, the nation is now geared up for the next set of growth under Atmanirbhar Bharat. Today's session was immensely enriching, informative, and guiding for the startups, entrepreneurs, and all the audience for today. And let me tell you, this is just a beginning. ICC will be there to assist you and in further communication in the startup ecosystem. I'd like to highlight some key takeaways from today's sessions and deliberations. There is a scope and need to foster a culture of innovation for all, especially the students. Promotion of innovations across the sectors is highly required, especially in semi-urban and rural areas. The support for innovation and creation should be made more strong through more incubations and R&D. This will more prominently help startups to come up productively and efficiently. Today we have NASSCOM 10,000 startups, and Eastern India head Mr. Aryan Kothari is present in the audience. And also I am Kolkata helping startups by the incubation. Dr. Shubhranshu Sanyal, CEO of I am Kolkata Innovation Park, is also present here. He will be coming up in the next panel. I'd like to thank them for the immense support towards innovations of the new age youths. Public organizations should be facilitated to assimilate innovation with a view to improve public service delivery. Promotion of creation, protection, commercialization, intellectual property rights is highly required. And also, I greatly appreciate the idea given by Mr. J.B. Pani for a common Bimstec fund that will really help the startups across the border in the Bimstec region. These are few suggestions on behalf of Indian Chamber of Commerce for all the Bimstec countries with growing startups. There can be unprecedented challenges that call for unprecedented solutions. I call all Bimstec nations to support the startups. And startups are quick to respond in getting the economy back to shape, getting the livelihood going, generating employment, making home for investment, and thereby open up a new era of development for the countries. With this, I would like to thank all the speakers for their presence and deliberations and close the session. And before the formal closing, I will request for the Sri J.B. Pani to give a token of appreciation to the esteemed speakers. On the dais, please. One group photo, please, for all the speakers. To Shri Debashish Sen, please. To Shri Manjit Kumar Nayak. To Mr. Ravi Narasimhan. And to Pani sir. With this, we will now begin the panel discussion within 5 minutes.